Now, like 2 days ago, the British International Investment, the BII, they pumped in about $26.5 million into the agricultural food chain in Nigeria. Their focus is mostly storage, and they are working with Apex. We brought you that report then. And after the announcement, I had to sit down with two of the executives to get more details, and also the confidence that they have, to bring in $26.5 million at a time like this, when it seems foreign investment is running away from Nigeria because of the FX challenges and what many have described as policy inconsistency. Well, let's hear what they have to say in this chat that I had with them. $26.5 million is actually a lot of money, to invest. And this time, I know you're investing in Apex, but I mean, generally, you're investing in Nigeria. And at this time, when there are talks of inconsistency in policies and obviously lack of transparency in some areas, what do you hope to gain, and what has given you this confidence to put $26.5 million into the Nigerian system?
Well, you're right that $26 million is a significant investment, particularly in the context of Nigeria today. But I think it's important to recognize that British International Investment is the UK's development finance institution. We've been making these type of investments for 75 years. We've been making these type of investments in Nigeria for 75 years. This is what we do. We go into countries and invest in countries where we think there are significant opportunities to make to invest through the private sector and have a significant development impact. And so from that perspective, $26 million, we invest about $2 billion a year, so $26 million is significant, but it's not out of character to what we do.
I think for us as BII, as Nick mentioned, we focus on impactful developmental projects. And therefore, when we engage with a country like Nigeria, we want to support the growth of the private sector and ensure that we support job creation, poverty reduction, and a lot of the SDGs in our country. So as far as this investment is concerned, as you know, post-harvest losses is a major issue in Nigeria. And if we are able to contribute through this investment in reducing post-harvest losses, it will be a significant win for us. In addition to that, as you know, AFEX is supporting hundreds of thousands of small-scale farmers. It's key to highlight that these are farmers who do not have the capacity to be able to get funding from the formal financial systems. And AFEX is able to support them, and not only with agricultural inputs, but also with agronomy practice support. And that is resulting in significant increase in productivity for these farmers. In addition to that, providing storage facilities enable them to be able to control the manner in which they sell their products. As you know, during harvest period, prices come down and there's a lot of losses because of the lack of storage facilities. With these storage facilities, the farmers can spread the time it takes them to sell, they can reduce losses, and they can make more from their increased production. So for us, this is the benefit. It's supporting the food security agenda of the government. Also a key focus for us as well at BII.
They already have some storages. We've been talking to them, so we know that. Are they going to build the storages and work with the farmers, get the farmers to put? You just paint a picture for us what BII is investing into. What do you hope to see? What are some of the timelines you hope to see some of these things?
So as we mentioned earlier, this funding is going to be deployed into developing 20 modern tech-enabled warehouses. And these are larger warehouses than the ones the company has now. And I think for us, when you have these facilities, it enables AFEX to be able to support more farmers. So what we're looking for is not just the increase in storage capacity, it's just also the enablement to be able to have more farmers that they are supporting. In terms of timing, there is no time to wait. We've done a lot of work up front before with the announcement today. So I expect that in a very short space of time, the money will be disbursed and you will start seeing the implementation of this project immediately. There's no time to waste. This is an urgent need for our country, and we're supporting efforts because they have the capacity to be able to implement on these objectives. That is for us what we're looking for. So we expect that in the next 1 year, you will be seeing effects announce the opening of some of these new warehouses.
Attracting FDIs in the midst of call for a more consistent policy environment, ease of doing business, and to make it worse now, we have the FX shortage, which makes the naira, the value of the naira, kind of unpredictable. How does that come across to you, and how have you been able to overcome that to invest this amount in the Nigeria food chain?
So let me start with the good news. I was last in Nigeria just about a year ago, so before the election, and I think it's clear that under the new government, that steps are being taken to make this a more attractive place for foreign direct investments. Some of the difficult decisions that the government were required to make, they have made. So progress is being made, particularly. Obviously lifting the fuel subsidies, some of the changes they've made in the FX market. But I don't think the job is, we still have a long way to go in Nigeria for it to be a really attractive place for mainstream investment. We at BII, we're a development finance institution, so our job is to invest in countries like Nigeria, and our job is to do that consistently and patiently and take risk in doing so. For most commercial investors, that's not what they're not required to take those sort of risks. So they're going to look purely at the commercial opportunity in the political and economic environment that supports that. So I think the good news is that progress clearly has been made. Some of the difficult decisions have been made. I think the biggest single challenge from an investment perspective for somebody looking at Nigeria today is still the question of FX and the reality that you have, an official rate and you have a parallel rate. There's a shortage of supply of foreign currency. And really, I think that makes inward investment very, very difficult in most sectors. But as I said, I think the government clearly are taking some steps. They have some plans to execute what is a very difficult problem, because you have to try to move to a freely floating exchange rate at the same time as you have to protect the community, the people in the country from the consequences of devaluation and inflation. So it's a very difficult balancing act that the government is on, but I think they are taking the right steps. And there's no doubt that in the long term, if this country creates a sort of an ecosystem that's conducive to foreign direct investment, there is the potential to unleash a significant amount of that investment, because this country is a large, rapidly growing population, and with obviously huge development needs in a whole host of different areas. So there is the potential to attract significant investment if the right steps continue to be taken.
As a long-term solution, we know that the president has talked about, securitizing dividends from the NLNG, and then we're expecting some $3 billion from Afrexim. But I mean, obviously these are short-term. The long-term still remains maybe boosting our crude exports or our non-oil exports.
So I'm certainly not an expert on Nigeria or how the oil industry and the oil exports work here. What I do know is, first of all, it's critically important to maximize the value that you're getting from oil exports. And we know that the government it's a difficult problem, but we know the government are taking steps to increase production and increase the supply of dollars from that source. In the longer term, you're right that building export industries is a huge issue in this country. Building capturing more of the value chain from some of, for example, in agriculture, having greater manufacturing both to export as well as to substitute for imports. That will take a while, and in order for that to happen, you have to have an investment environment that's conducive to that. But again, I think that we're definitely seeing some steps in the right direction.
Well, we see Nigeria attracting a lot of, well, especially the startups attracting the attention of investors now. Are we giving the investors what they want? Are we being accountable to the funds that have been invested? Do we carry the brand, you know, the Nigerian brand, as we should, you know, to make investors trust us for tomorrow? So it's a new thing now. We're attracting the funds, even though I think, was it Kenya or South Africa did do more in the last count. But as Nigerians, would you say, from the private sector, we are asking that the government should keep the environment right to attract FDIs, but are we Nigerians, the companies, the individuals, the private sector, are we doing enough to attract and sustain the FDIs?
I think the first point I will make is that if you go around many countries in Africa, it's very clear the energy, the drive that the Nigerians have. It's unique. I've traveled to many countries in Africa. Nigerians are very resilient, they are resourceful, and they are very driven. And I think those are really, you know, very significant virtues that Nigerians can contribute to businesses. If you look at many parts of our economy today, whether you are talking about the telecoms industry, you are looking at manufacturing, or the banking and finance industry, even from agriculture, you will notice that there are many Nigerians who are actually operating in these various companies, and they are doing a very good job of supporting the business. So in my view, Nigerians are indeed supporting the businesses. But as Nick mentioned, the environment needs to be more supportive to actually facilitate the FDI that we're looking for. If you have the investors who are long-term focused, who understand the environment, you can have enough Nigerians with the right drive, you know, character and integrity to be able to support the business. But the environment needs to be supportive.
But I'd reinforce what Benson said about the importance of obviously good due diligence and thorough due diligence, and the importance of strong governance. And without those things, it's very difficult to certainly to attract investment from international investors.
So on Wednesday, 10 a.m., you can join AFEX to get their own side of the story, how they will assure us that that $26.5 million will be felt. But it's also important to know that the 26.5 million naira is not just for Nigeria, it's for Nigeria, Uganda, and Kenya that they have to use. But I mean, imagine dealing with the issue of 50%. If we can reduce it to 10, 20% of post-harvest losses, know what that would do to food supply in the country. Of course, keys into President Tinubu's vision of, you know, that call for state of emergency against food insecurity and all of that. Well, it's time for the market, but we'll go to the markets first, make some money, and then we'll be back for the markets.